Support Mystics of India survive and grow with just $2. For more information, go to patreon.com/mystics of India. Thank you.
A land, a culture, which is steeped in aesthetic. If you look at any ancient structure in this country, it's a marvel of not only engineering, of aesthetics. The way they use the stone and the brick and is unbelievable. Well, today they're building homes with all the 72 shades of Asian paints, not 50 and it's not grey. Every color on the planet, they're painting in their house. This is essentially because of 10, 15 or 20 generations of poverty, abject poverty in this country. Only 1% of nation's population managed to maintain some wealth through invasions, through occupation, through British rule and everything. Only 1% managed. And that 1% had to be very tricky to manage their wealth. They had to bastardize everything about themselves to manage that wealth. Rest were subjugated, extreme levels of poverty. Such levels of poverty that in our famines, we did not die in hundreds or thousands, we died in millions. So that tells us what should be the level of poverty. 1 year, there is a failure of rain and 1 or 2 million people die. Means what? That means we were always on the edge, we don't have an extra bag of grain in our home. That's why we die, isn't it? So we lived like that for last 200 plus years. In this lot of our sense of aesthetic got cured into gross existence. It's time to bring it back. It's our responsibility to bring it back. Because today with the way we're building our homes, today the way we are dressing up, the way we are presenting things, doesn't look like a 10, 15,000 years of culture, unfortunately. But we have such a profound background, we feel little sink into it and suck from that. Aesthetics will come into us, it's naturally there in us because culture is not something that you can eliminate from your system, it is there. But somehow you think something else is superior. Why does something else become superior? Something else becomes superior because it's been ruling us. The English became superior to us. Why? Because they had the guns, they were ruling us. So naturally everything that they did looked superior. This is a land where, he is here, I need not talk about textiles, he is the expert in the field and I'm glad he is one of the designers who's really using Indian fabric in a big way. Everybody else is trying to look like Paris. Now, the thing we need to remember is, 300 years ago, from then on for many thousand years, everybody in Paris, London and everywhere else in Europe and Arabia wore an Indian cloth. They spent most of their… At one time, at one point, Paris and Europe, particularly France and rest of Europe, spent nearly 60% of their budget buying Indian textile. That is how enamored they were. That is what made them, go for these expeditions in the wild ocean and try to get to this country because the kind of exquisite material, textile and other things, spices, gold, everything, but one important thing was textile. This was the largest thing that was going out of this country. We literally clothed that region. In fashion, the high society wore only Indian cloth at one time. And when they came here, one of the things that they did between 1800 to 1860, a systematic effort to destroy Indian textile capability. In the 60 years, the Indian export of textiles came down by 94%. because they made it a law that you can only sell it to East India Company, and they taxed it some 300, 400 times and made it not marketable out there, and they took the raw material and did their own Manchester. It's fine, we're not resentful about that, but we should not forget what's happened to us. Only a fool forgets. A bigger fool will become resentful of the past. It's very important we remember the terrible things that have happened to us and make sure it never again happens to us. This is the important thing about a culture. Either there are people who are completely forgetting these things and think nothing happened, or there are people who become resentful and hateful about what's happened. Whatever happened to us, whoever did whatever they did to us, it is also our incapability that we allowed those things to happen to us, isn't it? They have one hand, we have the other hand. Otherwise it wouldn't have happened to us. In 1860, one of the Governor-Generals makes a comment. He says, "The fields of India are bleached by the bones of hand weavers, because in that season, nearly 4 million people died because their livelihood was taken away. Today, when we got independence, at least nearly 85% of the country's population was in agriculture. That was not the fact 500 years ago. That happened post-British era because all other livelihoods were taken away, all industry was destroyed, so everybody fell back on agriculture. And the small pieces of land they started scratching to survive by subsistence. So this was not the nature of this. This was a very proud land. With great pride, we walked on this land, but we got subjugated and the main culprit is the gunpowder. They had the gunpowder, we had a petty sword. It didn't work, they dominated us. Whoever dominates you, they will become the ideal in some way. They become our idols. So even today, everybody is still looking there. 70 years ago they left, but still most brains are in Greenwich Mean Time, unfortunately. It's time that everybody's brains come to Indian Standard Time and see how to revive this. This is not just for pride, because this is going to be our success. This is going to be our well-being. This is going to be our prosperity. This is not just for pride.